you join me in a very special car, in a Porsche. This is a 996 Turbo S. Look at that. I love how the lights form a line. That's just so special. And right in the center you have a digital boost gauge. Yeah, and you're constantly reminded that this car is the Turbo S. Let's just have a look around first. Now when you look at the window controls, you might be thinking, hang on, why is there 4 when it's a 2-door car? Well, that's because you can actually put down the back windows too. The back quarter window that you see right there, it actually goes down as well. I love how the interior is laid out. It's just so classic. I was just talking about how nicely designed this car is, the ergonomics. But actually no, the ergonomics of this car is not that great. For example, if you look at the AC controls, you cannot see it. It's blocked by the gear shift because it's so far down. And if you're not familiar with the car like me, you kind of have to try to peek around to see, okay, what are the controls? That to me is not ideal. Ooh, I love how they implemented these CD changers. One thing I really like though, and I'm sure Porsche people will have known this already, is the cup holder. It's integrated and you can pull it out, and then all of a sudden you can fit 2 cups. It's a piece of engineering mastery right there. And the next thing that I really don't like is the door handle. It looks cool, very sculptured design, but it's kind of a pain to use. It's not that ergonomic. Took me a while, but you know, just picking on a very nice car. For those who don't know, the 996 Turbo S is actually kind of a forgotten car because they're so rare. This is a right-hand drive model, and it means that there's only 50 996 Turbo S Cabriolets in the world, and I believe there's only 4 in Thailand. So the 996 Turbo S is essentially a 996 Turbo, but just with bigger turbos. It's got twin turbos, and both of them are upgraded, and it has the Vario Cam Plus, which just means that the intake cams are able to adjust the cam duration but also the valve lift. And I think that's pretty much it in terms of the difference with a normal turbo. But it also brings the power up to, I think, 444 horsepower, which is a lot. I mean, back then, this car is from 2005, 2006. That's a lot back then. It's crazy. So this car belongs to a friend of mine. He wants me to have it for a few days, and I'm very grateful for that, because 911s have been like a dream for me. As you'll see here, this car has matching wheels to body color option. So it's a GT silver, same as the Carrera GT silver. Kind of reminds me of the 968 CS, you know, the yellow car with the yellow wheels. I like it. It's really cool. Oh, this is a very special day because the 911 has always been kind of my dream car. But today we are in kind of a, how should I say, I don't want to call it controversial, but it is a little bit of a controversial car. Well, you could feel the whole car shake when it starts. And you can totally feel the engine is right behind you. Let's turn on the AC because it's really boiling hot right now. So why did I call this car slightly controversial? Well, it's because the 911 is supposed to be a purebred sports car. It's supposed to be lightweight. It's supposed to be like an ideal 911. I know I might get some shit for this, but an ideal 911 is supposed to be naturally aspirated. And also, as you know, the ones that are more collectible, at least in the Western world, are the hard tops, not the soft top. Oh, and also the transmission needs to be manual. So then we are here today with the ultimate 911 that does not tick any of those boxes. I mean, first of all, it's four-wheel drive, which I forgot to mention. A purebred 911 should be rear-wheel drive, like a GT3 or a GT2 even. So it's rear-wheel drive. It's got twin turbos. It's got a automatic transmission, and it's also a soft top. And the question that I want to ask myself is, should this be on anyone's dream car list? If you're looking for 911s, should this be up there along with perhaps the 996 GT3 or even a 997 C2S? I don't know. So let's find out. I had a lot of anxiety before getting into this car because it's kind of like meeting my hero. And my first impression, after starting the car, after turning the wheel, the first thing I notice is, hey, the steering wheel is pretty heavy. People always say that the 911 has very little weight in the front. The steering feels very light and delicate. When you're just driving slow speeds or parking, it feels like a pretty heavy power-assisted steering system. Not dissimilar to perhaps my BMW E28. It has a similar weight, but the steering wheel is perfect. I love it. It's thin. It's not like the modern BMW stuff where it's just like girthy. I don't like girthy wheels, man. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but just have it thin so it's nice and delicate. The size of the wheel is perfect. It's not too big, not too small, just about right. These dials, man, these 5 dials, they get a lot of hype, and they get a lot of hype with reason. They are beautiful, easy to read. It's the sort of dials you want to be greeted with in the morning. Next, what did I realize next? Is the refinement. Honestly, I thought the Turbo S would be more refined than this. There's a lot of creaks and rattles, as you can probably hear in the footage, coming from the roof, coming from the back window. But I can forgive it. I mean, it's a soft top, so I understand. But it may make it seem like it's a little bit flimsy without the hard top. But to be honest, if you're like me, you're not a professional driver, you're probably not going to notice the difference in stiffness. The only reason or perception that causes you to think that it's perhaps more flimsy are the extra little creaking noises that it makes. So let's not dwell on that. What did I notice next? Okay, the ride is pretty punishing on these roads. You know, these Bangkok roads, they're kind of terrible. I expected the Turbo S because it seems more like a Grand Touring spec. I expected the Turbo S to perhaps be a little bit more accommodating in terms of ride comfort, but no, it feels stiffer than my Mitsubishi Evo 7. It feels a bit stiffer than my E90 M3 as well, but it's not terrible. It's not too bad. The seating position is spot on, is perfect. There are no complaints. I love these seats. I love the way the pedals are placed. The steering wheel is just at the right distance from my chest. It's really good. As you might have noticed, I haven't even started pushing the car yet. It's because the roads are so bad. Automatic transmission, 5-speed. That was not full throttle, but I saw 0.7 bars. I think that might be maximum boost. I don't know. Ah, okay. This is the 911 feel. It's... Wow. Okay, so let me explain. I've never had an experience with a rear-engine car. And I've never had any experience with a mid-engine car. So everything I've driven so far, up until now, that is, has been front-engine or front-mid-engine. And as soon as I took that corner away, something felt different. Something felt really different. You could really feel that the weight is in the back. And yeah, like what they say, I'm so used to the steering loading up when you brake and enter a corner because most of the mass is up front, that when I braked and turned just now, the steering felt light. That's what they mean by the lightness. It's relative lightness, not absolute. Because it's a convertible, you hear the car more. Even though the top is up, because it's a soft top, you hear it more, which I like. But you also hear people yelling at you more as well. Oh, wow, okay. This thing corner as well. I can understand why this is kind of the ultimate sports car. But you need really fast roads to drive this car. This car does not like to be on these kind of roads. It does not suit it at all. So let's try putting in manual mode, and that is putting the gear stick to the left. I love the gear stick, by the way. It's like wrapped in carbon fiber, and it has this chunky piece of metal at the top. Actually, this is not metal, it's painted plastic. So now I'm in manual mode in third gear. Downshift, I click it now. And then it shifts. And then I boot it. 0.9 bars. Whoa, this thing screams up top. It just exploded with power. Holy, this thing is fast. It just keeps on pulling. Oh. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. This is truly special, this. Does it live up to my hype? I don't know yet. Still gotta drive it more. Oh, okay, yeah, it lives up to my hype. Freak, that thing is fast. Whew. Wow, this thing is from 2005. Holy crap. So this weekend, I also happen to have my other friend's CLS 55. That is a supercharged beast. That car came out 2006, same time as this car. So both of these cars are from Stuttgart. That car has 500 something horsepower. It's been slightly tuned, and it has around 800 newton meters of torque at the wheels. And you know, people say Porsche horsepower is usually more efficient, and in this case I can tell you that this car does not feel any slower than the CLS. I can understand why people will buy the turbo, because not only is it a joy in the corners, but you also get this furious dramatic acceleration when you're just going in a straight line. And you don't really get that with the naturally aspirated models. There is turbo lag, but the responsiveness down low is nothing to complain about. People complain about turbo lag, but I think turbo lag should only be pointed out if the engine has no response down low, like absolutely no power or no response. But in this case, so right now I'm at 2000 RPM. I floor it and it responds immediately, and then the boost starts coming up at around 3.5, I would say, just now. So it's absolutely nothing to complain about. You can argue the same with naturally aspirated engines, where they make a lot of peak power up top, those peaky motors. It's the same. They have I guess you can call it a cam lag instead of turbo lag. So there is a lag before the cam comes in, like all the VTEC motors. The cam lag, turbo lag, it's both lag. I mean, surely this car could benefit hugely from being a manual. And tell you what, my friend just bought one, a 996 turbo manual. So he just bought that car, and he's the owner of this car, and he's going to decide which one to keep. I have a suspicion it's probably going to be that one. Oh, the acceleration is so addictive. Oh man. Too bad we don't have nice twisty roads around here. Gear shift is really slow though. I don't like this gearbox. I'm sorry, but you know what? Back in 2005, this is pretty much as good as it gets. Other things about this car, I know it's a minor one, but because I had so much expectation for this car, kind of a hero car for me, I expected everything to be perfect. And you should never do that before you drive a car, ever. Doesn't matter if it's a F40 or a Bugatti or whatever, don't do that. So when I was greeted with this indicator, I always thought the Porsche indicator would be perfect. I guess I'm wrong. The BMW ones are much better. Even the one on my E28 is miles better than this. This feels, number one, it's a little bit flimsy. There's some free play, and when you indicate, you almost feel like it's gonna break off because it's so thin. Yeah, that's me bitching about a 911. Other than that, this car is absolutely beautiful. Wow, I'm so glad I can drive it. So when the roads are just undulating like this, where the imperfections are not so bumpy, this car handles undulations pretty well, or small imperfections pretty well. So maybe I was wrong to say that it's not a good Grand Touring car. I should probably have said Thailand roads or Bangkok roads are just terrible. Sorry, Porsche. So one theory why I think they made the steering wheel heavy is because it becomes light when you're cornering. So they need to offset that with making it heavy to start with. That's my theory. Tell me if I'm wrong. The 996 has sort of been unloved for a very long time. Most likely because of its looks. But to me, I've really grown to like the 996 in the past 2 years, and I think many people have in the past 2 or 3 years, just because they were so cheap, and people just keep saying that they are very good value. They actually drive great, and because of that, now they are becoming more appreciated. And I feel like the crowd now has starting to get more conditioned to really appreciate the styling of the 996. It's weird because I'm starting to like this indicator. Does this car do this to you? Like, things you dislike initially, they start to grow on you, starting with the looks, and then the steering weight, and then the door handles. I'm starting to like the door handle too, by the way. This car just sneaks up on you bit by bit. And that's why people who buy 911s, they just keep buying it. Wow. Okay, I sort of got a taste of the handling abilities of this car. It's hard to describe. The front end felt really light, but it felt so adjustable mid-corner. So adjustable. You can feel that it's not burdened by the weight of the engine. Of course not. It's back there. And so it frees up the car to change direction much faster than I'm used to. I don't know what they were thinking though back then with the Tiptronic plus minus buttons instead of paddles. Yeah, should have just used paddles, man. Were they expecting someone to drive with one hand and then shifting up and down at the same time with their thumb? Maybe. But look, when the roads are bumpy, I must say it's kind of punishing. Does this engine feel like rubber bandy? Does that make sense? People say turbo cars feel like imagine yourself sitting in like a cart and then there's something pulling you with a rubber band attached to your cart. So as they yank you, you can feel that initial acceleration and then it just speeds up. Does it feel like that? No, not significantly. You don't get the rubber bandy feel. It feels pretty linear. Pretty linear until the turbos kick in and it's like woof, but not rubber bandy. Imagine if this was a PDK. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? I think that is the main reason why the 997 Turbo S is just worth so much more. It's because of PDK. So what do I think? Do I think this car should be on your wish list? I think so. If you have space for more than one 911 in your dream garage, I think this car deserves to be on it. Just because I think we are wrong about the 911 having to be a purebred sports car, because Porsche, they make so many variants of the 911. They basically make a 911 for anyone, essentially. You can get the base model, you can get a cab, you can get a Targa, you can get rear-wheel drive, you can get four-wheel drive, you can get turbo, non-turbo, you can get a race car, you can get man, it's just, they make all kinds of flavors, and every one of them deserves a place in the history, just like this one does. Especially if it's so rare. 50 cars, right-hand drive, in this spec. Really rare. So I totally understand people who buy this. But people who buy this should also buy a manual 911 too, which my friend has. Because you just need both flavors. In terms of driving experience, how does it compare to, say, the CLS 55, the car that came out the same year? Power-wise, they feel similar. This car handles much better, so I prefer this car. Unless you're talking about driving it as a daily, driving it in traffic, then of course the CLS that has air suspension is much more comfortable. How does this compare to, like, let's say the Mitsubishi Evo 7? I know no one's comparing them, but these are the cars I have access to, so I'm comparing them. All right, how does it compare? Well, the Evo feels more raw, but also at the same time it's more comfortable. The Evo feels like a Gazelle. It's very light. The steering is very light. This feels more planted. By the way, who is Manuel? Apparently there's a Mexican guy in my car. Is that what they mean by your car has soul? You tell me. This is probably the nicest handbrake I've ever touched. It's cold, it's metallic, it's wrapped in carbon. Even this tip is metal. Wow, okay. Yes. Alright. Let's turn her off. Thank you.